That is not the way we treat disabled veterans who put their lives on the line. Now, some of my Republican colleagues in the Senate, they want to cut Social Security. We've got news for them. We're not going to cut Social Security benefits. We're going to expand Social Security. I've been going all over this country, and I've been hearing from young people, and what they say is, Bernie, it is crazy that just because I went to college, I am now $50,000, $80,000, $100,000 in debt. I want you to think about it. Everybody in this room knows that education is an inherent part of who we are as human beings, and you all know that if we're going to compete successfully in the global economy, we need the best educated workforce in the world, Troy. Why are people being punished for getting a college education? They should be rewarded, not punished. Talking about shutting down colleges. What we should be talking about is making public colleges and universities tuition free. My dad came to this country, dropped out of high school. My mother never went to college. But does anybody in this room think that it is a radical idea to say that all of our kids who have the ability and the qualifications should be able to go to college regardless of the income of their family? Is that a radical idea? It surely is not. It already exists in Germany, countries all over this world. I want every child in this country in the 3rd grade, in the 5th grade, to know that if he or she takes school seriously, does well in school, those kids will be able to get a college education no matter what their family status is. By the way, just to make clear about how we're going to pay for the proposal to make public colleges and universities tuition free and substantially reduce student debt. You know how we're going to do that? We're going to impose a tax on Wall Street speculation. That the greed and the recklessness and illegal behavior of Wall Street drove this country into the worst economic downturn since the 1930s, right? And Wall Street, after destroying the economy, went begging to the Congress, bail us out, bail us out. Well, now it is Wall Street's turn to help the middle class in this country. Is listening to women. And what women are saying is, how does it happen that we are making 79 cents on the dollar compared to men. And if you are an African American woman, the numbers are even worse. And I know that every man in this arena tonight will stand with the women in the fight for pay equity. And we are listening to our brothers and sisters in the African American community. Saying, how does it happen that unarmed African Americans are being shot and killed by police departments? They are saying, how does it happen that African Americans are far more likely to get criminal records for smoking marijuana than whites? Will get stopped by the police when they're in their vehicles more than whites. Right. And what the African American community is saying, what we are saying is we are going to reform a broken criminal justice system. Going to end institutional racism. And this campaign is listening to our brothers and sisters in the Latino community. They are saying that they are tired of living in the shadows. They want and need comprehensive immigration reform and I want to make a point that no other candidate running for president will make. And that is that no president, not Benie Sanders, not anybody else, can address the enormous problems facing his country alone. No president alone can do it. Right. And if anybody here knows, and I'm sure you all do know, how real change has taken place in America, it has always taken place from the bottom on up, not to school here in Chicago. I worked. It was a long time ago. And I worked for a union which no longer is in existence, called the Packing House Workers of America. And the history of that union was workers, black and white and Latino, coming together to fight for dignity, to fight for workers' rights, to fight to end exploitation. Nobody gave them dignity, nobody gave them decent wages or decent working conditions. They stood up and they fought for their rights. That is exactly the history of the civil rights movement. From way back when, names that we do not know, names of people who were beaten and killed and lynched, who stood up who stood up and said, America is not about racism and segregation and bigotry. They fought that. I want to tell you very briefly something that I learned about a month ago. It's a story of courage, and I didn't know it. Should have known it, I didn't know it. I was in Birmingham, Alabama. And I went to the church that some of you may remember. It was the church that 4 beautiful little children were killed in by some racist bombing. And I went there, and I knew that. But I talked to the guy who runs the church, and he said, Bernie, did you know that during that month, when that terrible bombing took place, there were 14 bombings in Birmingham in that month alone? Imagine a modest-sized city, 14 bombings in order to prevent people from standing up and fighting for racial justice. In other words, you were living in a city run by terrorists at that point. That's the reality. But you know what? Those people in Birmingham, they didn't give up. They stood up and they fought back, and that is the history of civil rights in this country.